Hello and welcome to the Property Roundup here on iPropertyRadio with myself, Carol Tallon. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Tina Marie O'Neill, Property Editor with the Business Post and Chair of the judging panel for the upcoming Business Post National Property Awards 2025. Tina Marie, you're very welcome. I'm so delighted that you're joining me today.
Hi, Carol. Thank you for having me. Delighted to be here.
Most people will be well familiar with you from reading all of your content, not just on a Sunday now, but throughout the year. And the Business Post National Property Awards has really become a staple in the property calendar for the year. I'm biased. I'm very excited and looking forward to the gala event next. I always love a good gala event, but I'm really excited about the new categories and the change in categories this year, and the addition of new judges. So maybe tell us a little bit about, because obviously you've been the chair of the judging panel since its inception. Tell us a little bit about kind of the origins of these awards, why they were introduced, and really why they're important, how they came to be.
Okay, well, this is the fourth year that the awards are running. We introduced them because I suppose we were coming out of COVID and we felt that there were a lot of companies that had survived the 2 years that we were in lockdown and that had worked really exceptionally hard at what they do. And we felt there was a space in the market. I mean, the property sector in Ireland is massive. It employs thousands of people. And in some cases there might be two people in a family that sustain their household through the property industry. And we wanted to acknowledge them and we wanted to learn more about them as well and create an awareness of the people who are involved in such a massive industry. And it's grown from year to year. It's just got better and better and stronger and stronger. I think the first year that we ran it, because people had been in lockdown for so long, there was a sort of energy around it, particularly the gala evening. I suppose when all the nominations have been adjudicated and we're ready to go, that is the party. That's the fun part. And it just, that alone, I think, you're in a room of 400 or so people and yet it still felt intimate. Um, we found a lot of people who hadn't seen each other for years, a lot of familiar faces, but it also acts as a sort of platform for people to network and to get to know people that they either didn't know before or who they've heard lots about and they want an introduction to. So all in all, there is a great party feeling to it. And if anyone knows the property industry or has worked in the property industry, whether it's commercial or residential, everybody knows everybody. People have cut their teeth in lots of different companies and you end up seeing the same faces. But they are working in an industry at the same time, which is constantly evolving. There's never a dull moment. It's like politics. There's never a dull moment in the industry. There's always something happening. It's a bit swings and roundabouts in a way. If one sector, say for example, at the moment commercial, we're keeping a close eye on that. But if commercial's sort of struggling, it seems that residential sort of fills the gap. And there's always something happening. If you look at the PRS market, for example, that's really quietened over the last year. And, what's kind of taking its place is almost social and affordable. So there's always something happening and something evolving. And that has led to different different jobs for starters, but also different opportunities for people to excel. And that is reflected as well in our list of categories, which also changes, and it changes with the times. So, there are a couple of ones this year that are really interesting, and it shows. I know I'm prattling on, but if you
No, I'm excited about the categories, so I want to know which ones you're excited about, because you're
okay,
going to be covering these throughout the year.
well, okay, let me have a look. There's the ESG one, which is just going from strength to strength. But it also, so what we've got corporate social responsibility as well as ESG and sustainability. So we've actually, they're two separate awards, again, because there's so much interest in each of them. And a really interesting one this year is the fact that we've split PropTech Like everything in life, technology is moving at warp speed. And in terms of trying to keep up with it, we decided let's split it into established prop tech companies, which is hilarious because, we're only 4 years in. But we've now introduced emerging prop tech because they are emerging so quickly, and evolving so quickly. And that's really exciting because, particularly as a judge, you can't know everybody and everything. But with all these nominations coming in, you have to study each one of them. You have to look at each one individually, and base their results on their awarding on merit. So it's an opportunity for us to get to know what's happening in the market and who the players are.
Yeah, I will. Last year, it was so poignant, the prop tech, because actually I can remember, in terms of the prop tech category, it's something we've a strong interest in. And last year, I can remember throughout the judging, we actually, around the judging table, we did have a conversation around, this is so difficult. How do you compare an established prop tech that is serving the industry and has metrics to show it's serving the industry and is really having an impact? But how do you compare that to somebody who has such a vision and is starting to gain momentum, in terms of innovation, in innovating something that we know badly needs to be innovated? And so actually it was a really interesting discussion that we had, where actually you cannot compare these two because they're very different organizations almost at that stage, and they're doing different things. So actually I was delighted to see those categories split, because it'll make the judging, I think, a lot more straightforward as well, because we'll be able to see, okay, what technologies are really having an impact for estate agents and letting agents and property managing agents, and for developers and planners right across the board. And then where's the next wave of innovation coming from? And I
Yeah.
always get so excited about that. Yeah.
Yes, and it is really exciting. But you can apply that there are other categories as well that we've got, like the established agent of the year, or a market leader. It doesn't have to be an agent. And then you have the emerging leaders, the future leaders, and that kind of, so it is a broad spectrum of categories, but
Yeah.
it also
Yeah.
reflects a broad spectrum in the field. And another one that I'm really excited about, and I love the Lifetime Achievement of Award. That's a really special one as well. But
That is actually a really special one. Can you take a moment there just to remind people, because to me that is definitely one of the most special ones, because it's really where the industry, you can see the industry pulling together, where we're all looking in the same direction, that even though we might be in challenging market conditions, even though some of the regulatory challenges, some of the, I suppose, bureaucratic hurdles to delivering great homes and great communities sometimes can feel a little overwhelming, kind of shows that we are all looking in the same direction and moving in the same direction. And sometimes, it isn't about how the pace at which we're getting there. We'd love if that pace was faster, but there are things like when we come together to acknowledge lifetime achievements, it shows that actually we are looking in the right direction. We're really trying to do the right thing as an industry, and we're really trying to move in the right direction. So actually, can you take a moment maybe to take us through just some of the past winners there?
Sure. Well, I mean, last year, we'll go with the freshest first, I suppose, was Pat Davitt. Pat Davitt, who was looking at standing down from his position this summer. But and in his aspect, he's been an agent, but he's also pushed in terms of policy making, regulatory change, and definitely in trying to speed up the conveyancing process, which we all know takes far too long in this country to actually happen. And he's worked tirelessly at that. And I think by acknowledging someone's work in the field, what is it, 4 or 5 decades in the field, like he
Yeah.
has, he knows everybody. He knows he's not wasting time. Bill Nolan was the same. I think
Yeah.
Dr. Nolan was amazing in that he had finished his career, his 9 to 5, his traditional career in which he had been a leader in his field, and then he went back to study
Yeah.
housing and housing policy. And I think an award like this really celebrates an individual's passion for what
Mm.
they do, and the change that they can make, and the change that you know, they don't just hang up their coat and off they go to the golf course or sailing or whatever it is they want to do, or traveling. They really do care about what happens in their patch, and they want to make things better. And I think
Yeah.
a lifetime achievement award, and also, I mean, you know, the property working in the property industry is not an easy gig, you know. Uh,
And I think Ken MacDonald really shared that with us when he won his award. Do you remember when he talked about setting up essentially his first office from the boot of his car?
yeah, absolutely.
You
Um,
know, the passion that it takes, the almost pig-headedness that it takes to actually stay
Digging
and
his heels
survive
in.
in this industry for decades is something remarkable.
Yeah, absolutely. And particularly when the industry changes so often and so quickly, to be able to withstand that and to adapting in property in the industry, whether you're commercial or residential, doesn't really matter, or whether you're involved in finance and
Yeah.
funding or placemaking, which is another category that we have, which is really interesting. And it's incredibly vital, but it's not until you break down the components of what goes into it that you realize, ah, yes, my surroundings are important. But all of those things are constantly changing and evolving. And to be able to adapt and to grow in an industry like that, and to withstand recessions, the troughs and the high points, um, we really do. That's kind of why it would be one of my favorite categories, because it is giving, I suppose, our public thank you to somebody who has dedicated their life's work to improving their surroundings and what they do and the people around them, and they sustain, I don't know how many individuals in each of their companies, but it's not just about themselves, it's always about other people as well.
You know, I think as you're talking about the evolution of the property industry, actually the awards, even though we're only coming into the fourth year, there has been such a marked evolution over that time.
Yeah,
So we're not just talking about the evolution of the categories, which is absolutely reflecting the trends that are going on in the marketplace. But they're also reflecting actually that property is about so much more than the buying, the selling, the transacting of
it
property
is.
or the managing of property. So actually to see planning, to see placemaking coming in, to see the delivery.
Renovation and refurbishment projects, and
Oh,
that allows, like, the
absolutely.
creative elements of the industry to get a look in as well, and to shine a light on what they're doing, particularly nowadays when we're looking at carbon footprints, and how do and sustainability, and how do we improve what we're doing, rather than knock a building, how can we refurbish it,
Yeah.
adaptive reuse. How do we make something from an old mill into an office building or apartments or whatever, and to do it properly and to do it so that it will last another 100, 200, 300 years? That's really exciting. And there are
Yeah.
plenty of creative people involved in that industry as well. And I think we kind of punch above our weight as a country in terms of that sort of thinking, um,
Yeah.
and our creative, our architects and engineers and designers. Um, so yeah, there is, in all, and we never mentioned developers. They're the guys behind
Yeah.
the building. I think over the
Well,
years, and we're
we
only
do have a category. We do have a
we
category
do,
for a developer of the year. So I'm excited to see what kind of entries we get there.
we do, and this year, finally, they're all starting. And I think, and this is what a point I was thinking about, before I spoke to you, is I think developers are really busy.
Mm.
They've been so busy that they just haven't had time. So we've had, it's always kind of chugged along for the first 3 years, but this year we've got a really strong lineup of contenders for the Developer of the Year award, and it's great to see. And it's really exciting, and it means you get to learn about who's working in the industry, what they're doing, what makes them different, how they're surviving. And it's a tough industry. They've gone through Brexit, they've gone through COVID, um, and not an easy industry to survive in, and to get out, particularly when there's political pressure about not having
Yeah.
enough housing. But as well as developers, we also have our social housing category as well. So it really is a broad spectrum, and we're trying to, you know, you could be there all night. Um,
Yeah.
so we have tried to refine it and to do the ones that are most reflective of what's happening in the industry. And it's great to see that, the numbers are high this year in terms of applicants. Applying is free, and you can apply for as many categories as you like. So why wouldn't you?
Well, do you know, why wouldn't you? You're absolutely right. But, do you know, just in terms of that developer of the year, I think that's a really important one for us to celebrate. For a number of different reasons. You know, you're right when you say developers are busy. This is a busy industry, you know, like
Uh-huh.
construction. Construction is a low margin industry. So when people take the time to complete an application, an award entry, we know that that takes time and resources. We genuinely appreciate the effort. We know that these are things that, you know, companies are making a choice to do. But in terms of the developers, I think that um, the legacy of the crash has not been it hasn't been one that the industry has completely uh, outgrown. And insofar as I think we're still carrying some of the legacy of shame, of blame, of really a confusing time in the industry, but a time when actually it became very difficult to celebrate even the good things that were happening. And I think that actually it's interesting to see that Irish developers have such an amazing reputation outside of Ireland. And it's only in very recent years that we're starting to see that reputation in Ireland, for the developers to really own their reputation again, to actually feel that they can advocate for themselves, to feel that they can celebrate and showcase when they're doing really delivering world class projects that are transforming not just Dublin, but Cork, Galway,
Yeah,
Limerick, and we're
yeah.
starting to see that in Waterford. We'd love to see it right across the regions. But for me, I think that the developers are maybe the last cohort of this industry to to be celebrated and to celebrate themselves and to really advocate for themselves. And at a time when, as we speak, the programme for government is being negotiated by our incoming government, I think it is incredibly important that the people who are delivering on the ground
Uh-huh.
actually own their power, that not just they can recognize and reflect and celebrate what's being done well, but really do it in a way that is um, that we want an industry informed approach to the policy that the incoming government is going to take. And we need that to be industry informed, because these are the people who know the challenges. You know, just yesterday I spoke with one of our fellow judges, Paul Sheridan, within the CIF, and you know he said we almost need to stop talking about this like a housing crisis, actually, because without pipes in the ground we can't deliver any homes anyway. So actually we need to be looking at this as an infrastructure crisis. And that's the kind of insight and expertise that we need from the people who are delivering on the ground. But we need those people to be really proud of their work. We need them to own their power and know that actually the insights they have from delivering major and minor projects on the ground, that they're what we need to be informing the incoming government, so that actually we can get to a place where we're actually responding to the crisis, if we believe it's a crisis, that we're actually taking the measures, that we're taking the bold action that's needed. And I'm really, maybe I'm an optimist, maybe I'm naive, but I'm genuinely hopeful about the incoming government. I'm hopeful about what looks to be the makeup of the incoming government. I'm hopeful about what has been shared so far about the topics that have been negotiated in the programme for government. And I really do believe there's an appetite to just get things done. And I'd like to
Absolutely.
see that reflected in the award entries. As
Mhm.
chair of the judging panel, what are you hoping to see this year?
Well, before we go into that, I want to say that was really eloquently said, Carol. That was really beautiful. And you're absolutely right. I think, we use the word resilience when we talk about, property, the property industry. But developers are at the coalface, and they are resilience personified. And you're right, it does go to, it's not just about, digging a hole and putting in foundations. There's a lot of planning that goes into it. There's a huge regulatory framework that goes into it. The infrastructure has to be in place, the location has to be in place, you have to have the land, and then you have to follow so many regulations to get everything right. And nowadays everything is A-rated, so everything has to follow specific protocols. So there are a lot of balls that they have to juggle in the air in order to simply provide housing, never mind providing it at speed and at a cost that people can afford. In terms of what we're looking for this year in the awards, we again, there are a lot of companies out there that we don't know enough about. We would ask you, please don't be afraid to put your name forward. And as you said, celebrate yourself, acknowledge your achievements. And that's what these awards are about. So let us know about your achievements. It can be quite crowded and noisy when everyone's trying to talk at you. But by putting in an application, these are focused achievements that, all the categories, all the applications have headings, so you can actually, even if you need to have a look yourself and see, well, what have we done? And I didn't realize that, those achievements were actually something that could be lauded. So, it's an awakening for other companies as well to have a look and to let people know you too can get involved. Um, and I'm just excited to see what's happening, who's out there, who's playing the game, who are the emerging PropTech nominations. I want to know everything. And yes, and then we can, as judges, we can have a chat about our Lifetime Achievement Award winner. And there are quite a few to choose from, so it'll be interesting and exciting again. And there are so many things that, if you look at the buyer's agent, there's another category that came out of nowhere last year, and all of a sudden this year we have lots of people applying for it. So again, I think each award year brings something new with it, and that's exciting. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing, well, what does this throw out this year?
The judging panel now is going to be made up of, it's the Property Awards, but we have the president of the Irish Planning Institute, Gavin Lawler, which I think is really exciting. We're moving right through taking in, I'm just looking here.
We have construction with Paul Sheridan from.
We do. Mary Conway, chairperson of the Irish Property Owners Association. Genevieve
Stalwart, yeah.
Representing IPAV and more than 1,500 estate agents around the country. We have, of course, Neil Bannon, the executive chairman of Bannon, who would be such a household name in terms of retail and actually keeping the industry informed. And then we'll have Catherine Kenny returning from the Simon community. And the Simon community have had such a powerful year in terms of what they're delivering. So we're just really excited to see that the makeup of the judging panel take in planning, construction, real estate, right through to homeless and emergency services. So we're really spanning, while it is the National Property Awards, it really is taking in the built environment. And in fact, actually, I asked Paul Sheridan really what his priority is and what he's hoping to see from the entries. And, he really focused on the life cycle of the building. And I think when you hear the construction industry focus on the life cycle of the building, then we're moving in the right direction. So I think it's a really positive one. So you've mentioned there that the awards are closing in the next day or two. So they will be closing on Wednesday. So we would encourage people to come in. And I think one of the things you touched on there maybe is a good note to finish on, and that is around the networking, because as an industry, this is a busy industry. So in terms of
you never get a chance to stop, have a coffee, have a chat with somebody who, these are people who you may have worked with before, who you compete against all the time. Yeah. These are people who you may aspire to emulate because they're doing, it's people who are working hard, and it's a great opportunity for them to just chat and, talk about, what is working and what isn't working, and to have fun. It's a fun evening. And I think what makes this awards maybe different to other ones is it's almost like going to a wedding. At the end of it, they pull away the tables and there's a band. There's always a band for people to get to, like, shake a leg on a dance floor. And that can break the ice too with someone that you may not have met before and you want to meet and to talk to.
You're obviously a dancer. From my perspective, that's not breaking the ice. That's breaking everything around you. But I'll try my best. I'll try my best. I think that's a great note to finish. And so we would just encourage people, if you've started your award entry, know that you have about a day or two just to get that finished and in. And for anybody who hasn't done it, there is still time to do it, and we would definitely encourage. And we hope that we will see you at the gala event on the 27th at the Intercontinental, 27th of February. It'll be coming around very soon. Tina Marie,
Looking forward
thank
to
you.
it.
Thank you so much. That was Tina Marie O'Neill, property editor with the Business Post and chair of the judging panel for the Business Post National Property Awards 2025. My thanks as always to producer Katie Tallon with Hear Me Roar on Sound. And finally, thank you indeed for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next episode of the Property Roundup here on iProperty Radio. In the meantime, please be sure to check out all of the other construction and real estate shows here on iPropertyRadio.com.